Oke, cek mic audio. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Forum Excellent BUMN proudly present webinar Global Business Excellence Conversation collaboration with Dutch Center for Executive Coaching with a topic about the shadow side of leadership in the midst of disruption. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Aditya Dananjaya. I'm a secretary of Forum Excellent BUMN. It's a wonderful and precious chance for me to be your master of ceremony in this section. Okay, in order to make this event running well, I would like to give some information about the rules of virtual meeting. First, please use your Zoom ID as profile as follow, name and organization, for example, ADIT and FEB. And the second is please use the chat box to convey the question to speaker as follow, name, organization, and the question. For example, ADIT, FEB, and the question is how do leaders against disruptor? And the third rule is please turn off your microphone when you are not talking. And the last is please fill the presence link as delivered in chat box. I will share on the chat box to get e-certificate. Please fill the presence link. Okay, and we would like to welcome Mr. Jelle Vos from Netherlands as CEO of the Dutch Center for Executive Coaching, and thank you very much to collaborate with us. And welcome to all participants. Thank you for joining to this webinar.
Terima kasih banyak telah bekerja sama dengan kami.
Okay, and well, I want to introduce our moderator today is Mr. Dialah Hutabalian. He is team leader of FEB Go Global. So, moderator, times is yours.
Right. Thank you very much, Adit, for your introductions to this webinar Business Excellence Conversations this afternoon. First, I would like to welcome all of you, Bapak dan Ibu, from various BUMN in Indonesia. Thank you very much for coming to this webinar. And our special guest this afternoon, Mr. Jelle Vos. Yeah, Mr. Jelle Vos, he's from Dutch or Netherlands, and he is also a CEO Dutch Center for Executive Coaching, and he was graduated from executive coaching at Esrich Executive Educations near London, and we can hear his sharing regarding his profile and also the materials after I introduce him. And I want to welcome also some of leaders in the webinar today. There is a former CEO of PT Papros Tbk, Ibu Emi, joined this webinar also. And some of senior leaders from BUMN I saw in the webinar room. There is Mr. Arif from PLN and many more in our guest list today. And from Forum Excellent BUMN experts, we have here Pak Arif Kamirin. He's our expert team in Forum Excellent BUMN. And also Pak Gaguk, he's the Vice Executive Secretary in Forum Excellent BUMN. Thank you for coming this afternoon. And also there are team of FEB Go Global here through this webinar. They join us also. Thank you for coming. And all of our colleagues and also friends from BUMN. There are a lot of BUMN and also university come together with us this afternoon. So Mr. Jelle Vos will share his tacit knowledge in the area of executive coaching. The topic is about the shadow side of leadership in the midst of disruptions. So what is it and why is it important for us to know about this topic? so we can hear directly from Mr. Jelle Vos. So, Mr. Jelle Vos, without further ado, I offer to you.
Thank you very much, Dialah. Good morning, everybody.
Good afternoon.
From my side is morning. I think your side already in the afternoon. So good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
First of all, I want to thank the Forum Excellence BUMN on having me here. I'm very honored on that. Especially Edith, thank you for your introduction. I'm sorry I missed your last name, but it's a little bit complicated for not Indonesian people. So I hope you don't mind that I call you Edith. And especially thank you very much, Dialah, for inviting me for this and making this possible. I feel very honored. Thank you very much. It is also nice for me to be directly with you online in Indonesia. I'm sure you do not all know that my wife's from Indonesia, and her name is Zakia Type. And maybe it's nice to know that I'm sure that the sun will be shining in Indonesia. And for example, in the part of the Netherlands where I live, last week it was 15 degrees below zero. And today or tomorrow it will be 18 degrees above zero. So a difference of more than 30 degrees in just 1 week. Yes, let us start. What I would like to do is in a minute is share a PowerPoint presentation with you. But first of all, let me explain what we are going to do, because the topic is the shadow side of leadership in the midst of disruption. And maybe it's good to know that for me, leadership is not about talking about leadership, is not about something. It's about you as leaders of a company or a team, or maybe a leader of your family. So you're all leaders. So this topic is about you. So you will experience some things about yourself in this presentation and not just have a talk about the conceptual thing. So it's about you all. And secondly, mostly I do my presentations in a rather interactive way. So like experiential learning, not just presenting. And I try to do this also on this presentation. So what we are going to do is we are going to start with a quiz. So I will ask you to do some guessing. I will explain in a minute. So we'll start with some guessing work. So I'll present the person. Who is this person we all know? Then it will show a short movie, a 3-minute movie. Then I will do some presenting and explaining. And after that, I will coach you. I will do a coaching session with all of you at the same time, for about 8 minutes. How beautiful is that? Have you been coached all together with about 100 people? Isn't that a nice thing to do? I will try. And after that, there's some space for how have you experienced this and asking questions. So that about the program. Is that okay with you?
Yes, okay with us, Professor Jelle.
Good, let's start. So I'll try to share my screen with you. So first of all, to give you some sense about the topic for today is the shadow side of leadership in the midst of disruption. Actually, you can think about it as a subject where it's important not to just learn more, so to do more courses, more studying, but to learn a bit deeper, at a deeper level. Because it's important, from my point of view, that a leader in the midst of disruption stays balanced by exploring his own leadership shadows. So just a short introduction on myself. As Dialah explained, I'm a CEO of the Dutch Center for Executive Coaching, and this is an alliance of about 40 Dutch and international top executive coaches. In our team, we have also some coaches from Indonesia, very highly qualified professionals. So I'm CEO of this 40 executive coaches, and I'm also a professional executive coach by myself. My background is human resources, Bachelor of Science. I'm an organizational psychologist, and I did a master program at SH Executive Education in London, which is the photo on the right. So just to be clear, this is not my office. It is SH University, and I'm just sometimes a little bit naughty and make people a little bit jealous with this picture, because it's a very beautiful place to be. So I've spent here 2 years on a part-time basis, which was a really great time. I can recommend this university highly. So let's start. So the topic is about when leadership behavior becomes counterproductive. On the left side, I explained that like in disruptive times, it is very common and easy to experience pressure. We are sometimes very tired, or we just don't monitor our behavior very properly. And what we see is that we then sometimes act differently than usual, than normal. So a very important thing for today is to understand that when people are not under pressure, not tired, etc., they act differently than when they are under pressure. So disrupting times that generate pressure, and so it's very important to think about what happens to me as a leader when I'm under pressure, tired, insecure, or just don't monitor my own behavior. When we are under pressure, old behavioral patterns show from our childhood resurface. And when they resurface, when we are under pressure, tired, and insecure, then of course they will impact the relationship we have with other people. And therefore, they will also impact our leadership, because leadership is relational. We don't do leadership just sitting in a room. It's always between people. So leadership is relational. So when our old behavioral patterns show up, resurface, then they always impact our relationships. Maybe very small, very slightly, but sometimes very, very big. So this is the phenomenon I would like to explore with you today. So what happens when we are under pressure? What happens with the old patterns that resurface, and how can we see them? And how can we learn about them on a somewhat deeper level? So this is the topic. And maybe at the right side, if you don't believe there's a lot of more pressure in the world these days, you might read a book from Eric de Haan. And he explains that, for example, 100 years ago, the average age of companies was 67 years. And in 2014, it was maybe 15 years. So what happens in 10 years? How is the average age of a company? And when a company grows and goes away, it means much more change, much more disruption. So it will lead definitely to a lot of pressure and complexity and uncertainty. Yes? All right. So just some feeling about the difference between behavior under normal circumstances, so when you don't experience pressure, and when a person is under pressure. So the difference, what you see, I have found a little quiz for you. So a guessing quiz. Who is this? So in the next slides, I will show some behavior characteristics from the person we all know. So we all know this person. And first, I will show some behavior on the normal circumstances. So when this person is at his best, not under pressure. And I will show some slides, and then I will show some slides of his behavioral characteristics under pressure. And maybe a nice thing is to get you a little bit activated. The first one who guesses who this person is, please speak up, unmute, and this person will have a 2-hour coaching session from me. So please pay attention. I will go to his characteristics on a normal circumstances. And please, if you know, you think you know who this is, unmute and say a name, and then I will say that's correct or not correct. And the first one who guesses correctly will invite to a 2 hours coaching session with me. There we go. So this person, under normal circumstances, just really a little bit, has a strong adaptability. So he's very calm, and he can deal with pressure. He's also very ambitious, very competitive. He wants to win, he wants to be in charge. Remember, this is a person that we all know. And also, he loves to entertain. He loves to be in the center of attention. He talks a lot. The other side of his behavior, so the other side that he is not very willing to listen, and he often opens his mouth when he's thinking. His interpersonal sensitivity is just a little bit lower. So he is not really careful about people's feelings. So he's also low on caution, which means that he is not very cautious. He's just taking big risks, independent, and he's not very patient with people who try to be very carefully or to command him. He's also very inquisitive. So he's very curious about things, and he has a great imagination. So anybody guessing?
A mother.
Oh, sorry?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. This is very correct.
So who's the answer? Dania.
The Diana.
Diana.
Netherlands. Is that correct?
Is it correct, Pak Jelle?
Donald Trump.
Donald
yes,
Trump.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Diana, you got the quiz rewards from Mr. Jelle Vos.
Congratulations. So just look at what happens with him under pressure. So this slide and next slide just show some of its characteristics under pressure. So he's very irritable. You recognize this very clearly. So when he is under pressure as the president of the USA, the former president, I must say, he's very emotional, highly unpredictable. And you see it on Twitter. So he tweeted very emotional things. And the effect is, for example, that you have to be very carefully with those kinds of people. So walking on eggs, I don't know if that's an expression that Indonesian people know, but really carefully. Should I do this with him? Should I do that? Because very unpredictable. He's very bold. So he thinks he can do things he only can. So the world is about him. So as a result, he tends to overestimate his abilities. So he has a kind of a fantasized image of his talents. It's very big. He's very risk-taking and colorful. So risk-taking is charming, interesting, and daring, but at the same time, he takes very big risks. And colorful, he wants to be on stage. The world is for him, and he enjoys when he does presentations, because then he thinks it's about me. The world is about me. At the same time, of course, he's very low on diligent, which means that he's not very precise on details. It doesn't interest him very much. And dutiful also is not very high. So he doesn't listen to people who command him. He wants to go his own way. Yes, so that's just an indication how you could look at the person's characteristics to understand the difference between behavior under normal circumstances and behavior under pressure. Because of course, Mr. Trump, whether you like him or not, I must say I do not like him. But whether you like him or not, under normal circumstances, of course, he has great talents and great strengths. But under pressure, he changes. Some old patterns from his childhood surface again, and they will impact his behavior and therefore his leadership.
Mr. Jelle, can I interrupt?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I would like to clarify that the persons who answer the questions is Miss Julia Salila, the fastest persons who answer the questions. So I would like to clarify this. And how about if we invite Miss Julia Salia before you continue, how she can guess, yeah, Donald Trump is the person who is sweet with your criteria at the moment. Miss Julia, if you want to share something, please go ahead.
Thank you, but I'm sorry because I cannot turn my video in because of the bad internet connection here. So it's just how we guess or how I know from the news and from the media how he reacts on his personal social media, for example Twitter. I think that's a very clear behavior that he has, that he shows on his social media.
All right, thank you, Julia. And also we have mentioned Diana, yeah, previously, Mr. Jelle. So
yes.
we want to invite also Miss Diana. Can you explain or share the insights while you mention Donald Trump? Also, maybe, or you have different answers because the first persons who answered is Miss Julia. Please, Miss Diana, if you want to share.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Well, let me share something strange. Even before you put it on the screen, I knew it would be Trump.
How's that?
May sound very strange to you all, but I wrote it down on my paper. I'll show you if you like. Just because of Jelle said it's someone you all know. And when I saw the first characteristics, I thought this must be Trump. But I did this hand on the screen and I didn't unmute myself. So it's very fair that Julia won the coaching.
All right, thank you, Diana, for sharing your thoughtful, insightful sharing with us. Yeah,
you're welcome.
Pak Jelle.
Yes, thank you.
You have right decisions, yeah, regarding this. We give to you about these situations. So please continue, Mr. Jelle.
Thank you very much. So maybe to just to let you know, at the end of the slides, there's a link to the website of Hogan Assessment Systems in the USA, who has presented these characteristics on their website. So it's not something that I make up, but it's presented on the USA company, and you can follow the link at the end of the presentation. So let's proceed. Now you know that behavior under normal circumstances and behavior under pressure show some different things. And once again, they have always impact on our relationships and our leadership, even on our stakeholders and reputation. So leadership is not about how we see ourselves, but leadership is about how other people experience us. It's very important to realize, because I'm sure that Donald Trump thinks he's a good leader, but how does the world respond? How does the world see him? Leadership is, for me, about how other people, your team, stakeholders, experience you, and therefore it's about your reputation. And if these patterns, these old patterns, so they show up under pressure, have a negative impact, we might call it a Shadowside of Leadership. It is not a scientific concept, so it's not something that has been proven, but we all feel that under pressure we show something else, and it might impact in a negative way our leadership. But at the same time, there's still something like a taboo. I don't know, it's a very well-known term in English or in Indonesian. So our shadowship, so what happens with us under pressure when we are tired or insecure, is always little bit about, is it about me? So if I ask people in a room, who has a shadow side, then they probably will say, not me, maybe my colleague or my neighbor, but it's not about me. So it's always a bit about shame or failure. So if you show some things that pop up under pressure, it's always a little bit of shame or failure. So that is why it's not something you hear about a lot in leadership training or in courses. Okay, so have a look at the following movie. It's a 3-minute movie from Professor Eric de Haan, who has written a book about leadership shadow. And he's also the director of the Center for Coaching of Ethics, where I did my education. And I am also proud that he's my personal supervisor. So he guards the quality of my coaching work. Please have a look at the movie.
So Eric, your work on the leadership shadow is really fascinating and has just huge applications, particularly to those of us who do leadership coaching with scary people. Can you describe to people just your work with the leader shadow and what it is?
Yes. I've always been obviously very interested in my clients. I always sat down with them and listened to them. I wanted to know everything that they were willing to share in my sessions. But there was a point in my career, this is now 10 years ago, that I realized I had never been interested in their profession. So I'd never been interested in leadership as such. I wasn't ambitious for leadership myself. So I'd never done a substantive leadership role like many other coaches. They come from senior management positions, for example. So there was this moment that I suddenly realized I can define coaching. I know what it is. I can listen to my clients, but do I know what they do? Do I understand their field of work? And I didn't. And that was the beginning of the leadership shadow. I started to read everything. I started to try to define what leadership is, what this profession was all about. I struggled a lot doing that. And I found I wasn't really alone. So there are other important authors who also struggled defining leadership. So I thought, or I came to the conclusion that this was an issue about leadership that we need to be attentive to. And then over time, I discovered something about, it's technically called leadership derailment. So it's a kind of weakness after strength, so that a leader who might be extremely successful over his or her career, that there's often a moment of truth or a fall from grace or something like that. There's very often a moment in a leader's career or even in an organization's life where things go wrong. And I began to understand that leadership comes with a shadow. So even if you're a very successful leader, you build up your own shadow. And I always feel like I'm doing it in the moment. I'm talking with you now, I'm doing my usual thought leadership, and I think I know everything, and I tell you about it, and I'm in bright light, and this is my outside, and it's all very shiny and clear. And yet, even as I sit down here with you, having all this thought leadership, I am now aware that I'm putting things back behind me into my shadow. So all my doubts about coaching, all my concerns about coaching outcome and coaching outcome research, all my doubts about leadership, I will not tell you about those because I'm answering your questions in a positive way. I will have to suppress them, as it's technically called. So I have to put them somewhere in what I now call my shadow. So the idea is that all leadership comes with a shadow.
So Eric, you...
Okay, so all leadership comes with a shadow. And of course, what is interesting is to think about, okay, being concerned about my shadow and working on my shadow, what's in it for me? So why should I do that? And what is important to realize is that having a better awareness of your shadow side means that you can better anticipate on difficult situations and thus better maintain a sustainable balance. So there's a Dutch psychiatrist who said the thing below on the slide. So the point is that leaders to have to deal with a wide range of continuously present ambivalent emotions without becoming overheated. So in times of disruption, there are a lot of emotions with leaders, a lot. Change, uncertainty, have to deal with stakeholders, you have to deal with teams, they have to deal with whatever. So a lot of emotions, ambivalent emotions are always there, all day, all hour. And leadership can be seen as, how can I deal with this constantly present ambivalent emotions? And the more you know your possible counterproductive behavior, so what happens under pressure, the more you can anticipate on difficult situations. Maybe that is something of course, it's I experienced from my coaching practice. Maybe it's one of the most important items for leaders for the future, because the technical things like the management things, so budgets, mission, vision, they all can do it on a cognitive level. What happens on the emotional level is, I think, maybe even more important. So how can we, if we would like to explore our possible shadow patterns, how can we do this? So how can we let a bit grip, a little bit insight on our shadow patterns? And I will do two examples. One is from my own practice, so how I work with clients on their shadow patterns. And I will give an example from the Hogan assessment systems. So first, I would like to give some example from my own practice. And what you see here is some circles, and you can look at it as like an onion. You cut the onion, and you have different layers. And you can see a person as having different layers from below up. So you see behavior, thinking, beliefs, and identity. So the more you go inside from the outside, you will be on a deeper level of awareness and a deeper level of being. So above the slide, I have written behavioral pattern. So the word pattern is a little bit bigger than behavioral, because you have to look for patterns. What is the pattern? And I will show you in the next slide an example of a pattern, which will show you also what happens to this person when he is under pressure. So this is a real client I work with. So this client at the level of behavior, so what we saw was irritation. He was a lot of times irritated, angry. So what happened with him when he got under pressure? And we explored the level of thinking. So what was he thinking? And one of the things he was thinking that led to irritation was his team, they are constantly bothering with his problems, with their problems. They are their problems. Come on, I don't want to be with their problems. Why do I have to be with their problems? But this was his thinking. So when we want a level deeper, so exploring his beliefs that might trigger this, his irritation, we found that his belief was that people have to be strong. So his belief was people have to be strong, and therefore when people came with their problems, he became irritated. Yes, can you follow me in this pattern? So behavior, irritation, his thinking was they're constantly bothering me with their problems, and his belief was people have to be strong. And at the deepest level, so the level of identity, we discovered this, that This was a man who had a father who barely supported him as a child. So, of course, we have all these kinds of things in childhood. Our parents support us or a little less support us, appreciative or a little bit negative or whatever. This man had a father who barely supported him. So he developed the feeling that he had to do things by himself because there was no one to support him. And in his developing this feeling of no one supporting him, he felt that all people like himself had to be strong. Yes, can you see? So in his childhood, he had no support. He had the feeling he had to be strong all the time. Therefore, his belief was people have to be strong. And then his thinking was when people came to him with their problems, why do they do that? And he became irritated because he considered them as weak people, not strong people. So you can imagine when, for example, when the leader of this person would have offered him like an anger management course, it just wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. So if you try to do only intervention at the behavioral level on the outside, sometimes it works. But when the pattern has a foundation at a deeper level, it sometimes does not work. Yes, so in this example, you can clearly see what it does mean to learn on a deeper level. Not just to learn more, for example, an anger management course, but to learn on a deeper level. Any reactions to this? I can hear somebody unmute. I can hear a nice bird at the moment, but I don't think anybody's asking a question. Okay, let's proceed.
All right,
so this, sorry? Okay.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu, if you have any questions, you can raise or comment in chat. So Jelle or Mr. Jelle will respond to your questions through the chat box. Thank you. Please continue, Mr. Jelle.
Okay, thank you very much. So there's one example that I give from my practice. So we often work with leaders in these kinds of topics, then work on patterns that show up under pressure, because his irritation will impact his trust in people. I have to correct myself, trust from other people in him. It will affect the relationship and therefore his reputation. People might say, he's always angry, he's always negative. But reality is that he has a childhood in which he was very little supported. So this is one way of looking. A second way is from a personality test or psychometric, and it's called the Hogan Leadership Forecast Series. And I'm not sure you know it, because I think in Indonesia or in Asia, the Gallup is very, very well known, and other psychometrics, but Hogan, I think a little bit less. In the Netherlands, we are official reseller for the Hogan assessments. And to give you an indication, the Hogan assessment are used in more than 56 countries, so in 47 languages. And in the US, more than 75% of the Fortune 500 companies uses the Hogan Leadership Forecast Series. It's really, really a nice assessment, not just to have a look at your strengths and talents, but also on what happens under pressure. So the Hogan consists of 3 parts, and there's one part, so 1/3 of the assessment is specifically on what happens with me under pressure, because this is what impacts your leadership in a positive or less positive way. And in this assessment, the Hogan distinguishes 11 possible derailment patterns, which you see at the left. And I sent you the definitions out. I think the organization committee sent you the definitions. So excitable, skeptical, cautious, etc., etc. So the person from the example, so from the onion example, might have a high score on excitable. So maybe when he has scored 90% on the upper one, excitable, he could see an assessment that probably people will see him very excited now and then, very angry. And not to be disrespectful on Mr. Trump, but if you have a look at the Hogan website, you can see that Mr. Trump has a high score on many of these 11. So you would not be surprised when I tell you that he has a high score in excitable, high score in skeptical, so very negative about some groups and persons in society. He's very leisurely, so very unpredictable. Bold is probably more than 90%. So bold is like the subclinical version of narcissism. Mischievous and colorful are also very high in his profile, and dutiful would be very low because it doesn't really matter what other persons think or want from him. So the Hogan Assessment Center is especially appropriate for if you are interested in your possible derailer patterns. So what happens with me under pressure, fatigue, insecure, the Hogan assessment can help you with that in a very good way. Okay. So now we know that a leadership shadow exists. It is there. It is always part of leadership. And we know what it has to do with behavior, not under normal circumstances, but behavior under pressure, when you feel insecure, or when you just don't look at your behavior very well. And we have seen two examples of how you can look at those shadow sides. One example from my practice. So behavior going into thinking, beliefs, and identity, and one with the Hogan assessments. So what I would like to do, I hope you have a piece of paper and a pen, or you can write on your computer. I would like to do a joint coaching session with all of you. So, which means that I will do 12 minutes of coaching based on 8 questions. So I'll start asking 8 questions, and in this coaching session, my goal is just, not more, just to give you a sense, a feeling, a grasp of what it feels like to go from a behavior level to identity level, not more, because it's only 12 minutes. Sometimes we work in coaching, for example, with 10 or 20 hours with clients on this. So just to feel it. So I'll let you, in a way, travel from the outside, from behavior to the inside, for example, your beliefs or identity. And I have to be very, yes, I must say, because we're going inside your identity, if you have experienced any, for example, sad experiences with your parents in the last time, so if there's a chance you might become emotional by my questions, you can decide not to do this exercise, not to participate in the exercise. It's not very, it's just slightly touching something, but some people will have experienced something bad with their parents in a recent time. Sometimes they react in a certain way. So you can decide to step in or step out. It's okay with me. So I will start asking the questions. That means when I can find them on my desk. Yes, I found them. So what is useful is that you really focus on my questions. So it might be a good thing to shut down your video, because you might be distracted from the video, and then listen to my questions, answer the questions on your paper, and then we will see you again in 12 minutes. Is that okay with you? Let's go. So question 1. In In the preparation slides, you have seen some behavioral dimensions from the Hogan definitions. My first question is, you have chosen one definition from the Hogan definitions. You have chosen one item. My first question would be, describe in 20 seconds as specific as you can be, which behavior of yours belongs to this dimension. Describe in 20 seconds which behavior of yours belongs to this dimension. The other way around, what will people probably see at you? What will other people probably see at you when this dimension is working? What will people see? What behavior will they see? The second question is, please try to recall an event or situation in your memory where this behavior was visible. So a situation or an event in which you were under pressure or tired or insecure, in which people might have seen this behavior. Recall an event in which people might have seen this behavior under pressure. Question 3. I'm now going to help you to get more specific on this situation, this event. So the first question is, describe the situation or event factually. So what was the factual situation? Describe your behavior in this specific situation. Describe your behavior in this situation. And then describe the impact of your behavior on others. Describe the impact of your behavior on others. How did your behavior affect other people in this situation? And what may that behavior have done to your reputation? What may that behavior have done to your reputation? Okay, question 4. Question 4. Complete the following sentence. Complete the following sentence. I found this behavior appropriate in this situation because I found my behavior appropriate in this situation? Because, then complete the sentence. I found this behavior appropriate in this situation because. Question 5 out of 8, so we are halfway. Question 5, if you would want to change this behavior, which of the following emotions is holding you back? If you would want to change this behavior, which of the following emotions is holding you back? Joy, sadness, anger, fear, love, powerlessness, surprise, shame, guilt, or disgust. I will repeat them. If you would want to change this behavior, which of the following emotions is holding you back? Joy, sadness, anger, fear, love, powerlessness, surprise, shame, guilt, or disgust. Question number 6. It might be experienced as a difficult question, but just give it a try. Try to describe what this specific behavior in this situation tells you about your deepest beliefs about these kind of situations, society, or people. So try to describe what this specific behavior tells you about your deepest beliefs, about these kind of situations, society, or people. What is your belief, deepest belief on situation, society, or people? Question number 7. And now we are entering the level of identity. So I will now just briefly and gently take you to the context in which this belief or behavior might have originated. So I'll just gently and briefly go there. So please consider the behavior of one of your parents in the past. So consider the behavior of one of your parents to check whether you may have copied, this behavior to your own behavior. So consider please the behavior of one of your parents to check whether you may have copied this behavior to your own behavior. Have you copied some behavior of one of your parents? And take a moment to reflect on whether your behavior might be a response to how you and your parents were related in the past. So reflect on if your behavior might be a response to how you and your parents have related to each other. And if this is possible, what characterizes this relationship? So how would you characterize the relationship between you and your parents? How did it feel? So is your behavior maybe a response to how you and your parents were related? And how did it feel? The last question, then we will return to question 1. Last question is, and what was the impact of the relationship between you and your parents on your beliefs, on your feelings, on your thinking, or your behavior? So what was the impact of the relationship between you and your parents on your beliefs, on your feelings, on your behavior? How did it impact you? So the final question, question 8. So now look again at the behavior that you described in question 1. Look again at the behavior you described in question 1. Take 30 seconds to check whether your behavior feels different now. In other words, whether it has become more layers, more depth. So check your behavior question 1 and take 30 minutes to feel whether this behavior has become more deep or has become more in layers. 30 seconds. So thank you very much. You can turn on your video if you want, if you would like to. The exercise is finished. Also, my presentation has finished at this point. So I would like to invite you to say something about how have you experienced this, or are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jelle. If anybody want to share the experience while 15 minutes to be coached by Jelle Vos through the questions, please, you can share by unmute.
I have 2 questions, Pak Dialah.
Oh yeah, please, silakan.
Please.
Pak Gagu.
First of all, I would like to thank you for Mr. Jelle Vos' presentation. It's very fruitful for me to get to know about the coaching process and how we can behave properly, acceptable to one another. Yeah. I have two questions. The first one is in the organization context, how can we create the climate of coaching activities or practices in organization systematically and effectively? Because in my opinion, mostly the senior leaders in some organization tend to think that coaching is the work of HR department, not the leader responsibilities. That's the first question. And secondly, instead of coaching, I think leaders, at least or mostly, I think happen in Indonesia, tend to rely on the chemistry or personal relationship to appoint subordinate or team member or yeah. So what do you think? Is it still acceptable compared to the scientific measurable coaching or psychometric method? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words. And to answer your question just briefly, because there's a lot to say about them. I agree that I think it's a bit the same in Europe that leaders find coaching the responsibility of HR departments. But I think in Europe we're a little bit further than maybe in Asia or the Middle East. So we are more used to coaching. For example, in the Netherlands there are 60,000 coaches. Also in Indonesia, there are more and more. I think Dialah also has a coaching education, so it's one of them. So coaching culture is very difficult. So for example, if an organization would like to create a coaching culture, one of the difficult things is that some leaders who really appreciate coaching might leave the organization, or there's not a philosophy on what coaching is. So is the change thing that sometimes blocks a coaching culture. There's also nice research from a company in Australia with some who's also working globally, who try to create a coaching culture. One of the most difficult things was people are going from positions, new people, and how do they feel about coaching? Do they really appreciate it? So if you're going down the line, one thing is extremely important, that you don't be independent on some persons. You have to organize the dialogue about coaching. So the dialogue should be continuously organized, whether people are still in the company or outside the company. That's the first step. Focus on organizing the dialogue on coaching, not on the people, because when they leave, you can start again. It sounds a bit negative, but I think I understand what I'm saying. So try to organize the dialogue. So find as much people as you can who are positive about coaching and organize in a structured way the dialogue, so that is continuously present in an organization. The second thing is about chemistry between people. There is research on that also. So chemistry is very important. So if you look at active ingredients in coaching, there are a few things. One thing is that you should not look at the coaching model. So we have worldwide 415 coaching models, like the GROW model or Goldsmith, for example. But the coaching says nothing about the outcome. So the model is not having a very big impact. But the relationship, as you say, the chemistry has a big impact. So, but it's not if you like a person, it's about, can the coach create a good relationship between the coach and the client so that there will be trust, for example. Other things in coaching, so active ingredients are hope. So you must give clients hope. So if I would say it's not going to be very good, this coaching, so let's just stop it. That's not very helpful. So you have to create hope and also support outside the coaching room. So if there are people in the organization who help you outside the coaching, you feel supported. That's also very, very important. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pak Gaguk, for your questions. Thank you very much also for the response from Pak Jelle. Yeah, please, if anybody want to share the
Excuse me.
experience and also to us. Yeah, please.
Dialah, may I ask about some question about leadership?
Yes.
And Pak Jelle Vos?
Yes, please.
Yeah, introduce myself. My name is Rahmat from PP, TPP. I want to ask about, I'm curious about your layer, especially for like behavior, thinking, belief, and identity. Yeah.
Yes.
I ever learned about the 7 habits, yeah, like from Stephen Covey. They have a layer for dependence, independence, and interdependence, and the 3 habits. First, with private victory, and then habit 4, 5, and 6, and 7 is a public victory. I want to ask you about the relation between this 7 habit from Stephen Covey and this layer for you, Mr. Jelle Vos. Thank you very much.
Very interesting question. Thank you very much. Very interesting. So Stephen Covey, which I really like, is one of the most powerful books on leadership that I know. Is more on the level of effectiveness. So his 7 habits are about effectiveness. The title is also the name, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And when you look at the 7 habits, you can see that they're almost exactly the same as the components of emotional intelligence. So proactiveness is self-control, begin with the end in mind, important thing first, then of course, then habits 4, 5, and 6. They are actually the same as emotional intelligence, from which we know that they have a very large predictability on happiness and effectiveness. But it's on effectiveness. The layers, so the layers from Robert Dilts, who created them, and Mr. Bateson, Dilts and Bateson, is about personality. So the difference between them is Covey is about effectiveness and the layer about personality. That's the difference. But in my experience, if you look at, my experience is good to work on both. So if you take Covey for effectiveness, it's very good direction to go. And at the same time, you have to look a little bit more in the layers of your personality. And if you can combine that, there's great learning to do.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jelle Vos and Pak Dialah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Rahmat. Next, I would like to invite our special guest also, Pak Jelle Vos. She comes from Malaysia. If she can copy, Ibu Nisa, would you please to share your experience regarding what Jelle Vos has done about coaching? Please, Ms. Nisa.
Hi everyone. Sorry I can't on my video because it will make me staggered. Yeah, a line problem, the internet. Okay, going through the exercise just now, you know, I can really find that there is another side of me. Yeah, I find it as there's another side of me whereby unconsciously, yeah, it triggers. So it triggers. For example, if I can give a very specific example, it was during a meeting, during an explanation on the KPI setting. It really bothers me where I feel like I'm powerless due to the fact that I am unable to make the team members understand the reason why the KPI was set up as such. So when I look back, it is really related to the feeling of being responsible. Yeah, and it relates to my relationship with my parents, whereby I'm the first child out of 8 siblings. So a huge responsibility to ensure my siblings are okay. So that really, I have been carrying that identity, yeah, that I am responsible to ensure that everyone is okay in my team. So I have been carrying that identity for quite some times. And what happened is that the feeling of powerlessness when I didn't achieve it, when I can see clearly people are uncertain, they are confused, you know, how their facial expressions really show to me and their body language, yeah. So it really triggers me. And I think that these simple 8 questions with some sub-questions is really powerful, yeah, in terms of bringing out and to understand a person's why we are behaving the way that we behave. So that's my sharing, Kak Dialah.
Thank you, Kanisa, for your sharing. What a profound, insightful sharing through the experience from Mr. Hele coaching's guideline. What do you think, Hele?
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry I forgot your name in listening. So, but
Kak Nisa from Malaysia.
Nisa, thank you very much for being so open to us. Yes, I think it's exactly what you described is exactly where this is about. So that if I would go to my next slide, it's exactly there. So it says at the second dot, it says, so ask for feedback and apply the feedback to receive your deepest possible level. So it's about this. So you're telling us some struggles with your team and how you feel on that, and you were able to just leading me with a couple of simple questions to go to a deeper level, and you understand where it's coming from. And it is very important, because if you don't understand where it's coming from, you cannot do something with it. You can only change something that you can hold. So if your awareness is leading to, this is the thing, being responsible or feeling responsible, something going here, and you have got it, then you will be able to, if you want, do something with it. So I found your openness very insightful. Thank you very much. It's just where this session is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jelle Vos, and also Kak
you.
Nisa for your sharing, and also
Dank u wel.
Dank u wel.
Alsjeblieft.
Yeah. Thank you. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, the time for sharing from Mr. Jelle Vos is over. And we would like to say thank you very much, Mr. Jelle, for your... Yes, please.
Can I say one more thing, Dialah, before you go to the end?
Yes,
thank you
please.
very much. So I think this is very important, my last slide. So it's about just don't just learn more, try to learn deeper. And there's one saying from Mr. Arnold Bijse, which is very, very nice in this context. So we have to realize that we cannot become something that we are not. We can only become more of ourselves, which means if you gain more awareness on your deeper levels, then you will be more of yourself. So I would like to finish with this sentence for all of you, and thank you kindly for your attention. I'm sorry, Dialah, for the interruption, but I wanted to show this to people.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very profound cue, from you regarding these quotes. Don't just learn more, learn deeper. That's a very deeper for me, for us also, Mr. Jelle Vos. Thank you very much for your sharing and also your coaching experience this afternoon with us. On behalf of Forum Excellent BUMN, we would like to say very grateful and also thank you very much for your kind and also your your kind and proactive contributions in this forum. And we hope your coaching activities or your coaching program, coaching projects is very well and also success in futures. Thank you very much, Mr. Jelle Vos. I would like to give the next sessions to Pak Adit.
Okay, well, thank you very much to Mr. Jelle Vos for knowledge and insight. May it will be useful for our professional career. And FEB proudly award you an e-certificate and appreciation token. It's like, wait a minute. Okay. It's like a pen holder, a traditional pen holder that is for to Mr. Jelle Vos. And thank you very much for wonderful collaboration with us. And for the lucky participants, we would like to give you a door prize. That is 3 books from FEB, who's the participant who, to ask before about the coaching, and congratulations for who's chosen the moderator, and congratulations to Miss Julia Shaliha, got free coaching from Mr. Jelle Vos for 2 hours. And thank you for all participants to join this our webinar. And before we close this webinar session, I would like to take a picture with all participants. So please turn on your video. Wait a minute. Okay. I would like to take a picture. Okay, smile. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, once again. Wait a minute. Okay, hold on. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you to all participants to join this webinar. And also, thank you to Mr. Jelle Vos once again, and to all participants, please follow our social media. You can find on Instagram, that is Forum Excellent BUMN, and also on YouTube channel. And then we will give you some information about the next program. And finally, from the deep of my heart, I do apologize for my mistakes in presenting this event. And thank you very much for your attention. I'm Aditya Dananjaya. See you on the next event. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay clean from COVID-19. See you and bye-bye.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you very much, Pak Jelle Vos. Thank you very much, Bapak Ibu semua. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Dialah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jelle Vos.
Thank you semua.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, well.
Thank you, Diana.
Alsjeblieft.
Thank you very much, Adam. See you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kanisa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pak Dialah.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.